Here's the Sennheiser ME-2 lavalier microphone, the one that comes with the G3 wireless kit. And they're prone to being damaged because the cable is not very heavy duty. And so if you find yours isn't working, you can do a simple test here, just a continuity test. In this direction I'm getting 1.2 kilo ohms. This isn't a totally fair test because it's a condenser, electret condenser mic. It's not a dynamic mic. So it'll read different in different directions. That was 1.2K. With that polarity and the opposite polarity, it's reading, this one's around 700 ohms. They vary quite a bit, but generally in the vicinity about 1 kilo ohm. And when there's a problem with the connector, they read more. Here's an example of an ME2 that's been repaired at the plug end. It's an aftermarket connector. I guess this worked for a while, and then one of these fine wires snapped off, and this one it was intermittent and then not working at all. But the one I'm about to show you is one that's got the damage at the other end. And that's a plug like this is easy enough to repair, but the other end's a little trickier. What I discovered on this one that I'm hoping to be able to repair is that the case of the microphone capsule itself here is actually metal. Some of the anodizing was scraped away and worn away, and I was able to find continuity between this case and the positive tip of the jack. And that made me think, well, okay, there's something funny going on with this cable. So I gambled and I cut the easy to replace part off. And now I wish I hadn't, because continuity was just fine across the plug here. And I cut back a bit more cable, and there was still no continuity going back to the microphone capsule. And then I discovered I could take it apart. The microphone capsule actually has two pieces to the case. The outer part here, there's the seam, and there's the lower part, and it's threaded on. So by very careful use of pliers, I'm trying not to actually crush this delicate case, I just unthreaded it, and I'll show you what I found. Here it is taken apart. There's the lower part of the body. This is the little part that was protecting the capsule, and there's the actual capsule. And you may be able to see here one of the wires is broken off. It's a simple 2-wire solder connection. Simple, but a little on the tiny side. So I'm going to attempt to solder this back together, and I'm going to turn the camera off for this part so you can't hear me swearing at it. And this might be the fix. I'm not sure. I have to admit that's not the most fun I ever had, soldering that little thing on there. Sort of burnt myself. That's to be expected. So, but the big test is, does it have continuity, and is it going to work, and is it going to work well? Well, I guess that's more than one question. Continuity test in one polarity. Yeah, just under 700 ohms. That's kind of consistent with most of these mics. And reversing the polarity, about 1100 ohms. Also pretty consistent. So maybe it's okay. Maybe I didn't damage it with the heat. Now I have to put it back together and actually try it. That mechanical part was actually probably even more stressful than the soldering. I was concerned that I had maybe crushed the outer part of the barrel here when I took it apart. And if it was even slightly out of round, it would mean that the microphone capsule inside was going to spin around and snap off the solder connections, because the rubber strain relief down here is going to keep it from spinning around. I put a little bit of this alcohol contact cleaner in there as a lubricant, just because I knew it would evaporate very quickly, and that seemed to do the trick. We still have continuity, so that's good. I'll see if I can find a connector to put on it and test it. Did it work? Well, you're listening to it. Apparently it worked. However, I'm not really confident in my job on the connector here. It's pretty wobbly. I used the old one, so I wouldn't recommend that. I'd go for a new connector with proper strain relief, because this one's a bit wobbly and it's probably going to get broken again. But anyway, the microphone itself is still good.